Welcome to HP FanFiction. Support me by subscribing the channel. Also, like and share the video to keep me motivated to make more videos like these.
I can't believe it, Daphne said. Which part? Harry asked. The part where you decided to go all vigilante and hunt down those men. Death Eaters, and I only managed to hunt down one of them before I got stuck again. Harry clarified. You went alone to raid the ancient home of a pure-blood wizard family. You do know how dangerous that was, right? Daphne exclaimed. Are you seriously worried? You know that I can take care of myself. I know you are strong, but you are not invincible. No one is, Daphne said. I assure you, I am very much aware of my lack of invincibility. More than you can imagine, Harry said the last part in a low tone. Now, I did my part. Now can you answer my previous question? About Pansy? Why are you looking for her? She stared at him with knowing eyes. You think she is going to take you to her father? At this point she may be my only way to reach the rest of them. Other than assaulting the Ministry of Magic, Harry told her. She may not be my best friend, but she does not deserve to be used like that. Daphne had a serious look on her face. I don't like it either, but what else can I do? Wait for Parkinson to organize another attack on the school. Maybe next time he will send people to my house. I already tried following my father's advice and taking things slow. It doesn't work for me, Harry said. Daphne remained silent for a minute. I can't help you with that. Daphne, it's not that. She shook her head. Pansy left the school shortly after you went missing. She said that her family was taking their vacation a bit earlier than usual, and that she would finish her last school tests during the summer. We probably won't see her again until the next term unless she speaks to me during the summer. An early vacation? That sounded to Harry like the minister was running away from something. The question is, what is he running away from? He could be afraid of someone pinning the blame for the attack on Hogwarts on him. After all, it was a party organized by the minister in person, and everyone allowed access into the school was approved by him and his ministry. Or he is running away from whoever attacked the Rookwood Castle and killed Augustus. Harry? Daphne shook his head. I was thinking, I wish you did that more often before jumping into some reckless actions again. But we already missed potions. If we don't leave this broom closet, we are also going to miss the next class. Wanna go on a trip? The old man looked a bit tired as he returned the stare. Harry, tomorrow is the end of the year feast. I am very busy with all the preparations. Oh, but I think you will find this one very interesting. Harry leaned forward on the headmaster's desk. This managed to pique Dumbledore's interest. He was confident that Harry would not waste his time with something useless at least. Very well, tell me more about this. Where do you want to go? A cave, Harry simply said. A cave, Dumbledore repeated. I have to assume you don't mean for us to go spelunking for fun on the second to last day of the year. There is more to that cave. It is located on a cliff at the end of the Thames River, west of London. It is fairly close to the orphanage of a certain former student of yours. Tom Riddle. Dumbledore's face changed completely. Riddle, and what did he do in that cave? That's what I want to find out. Why don't we go take a look? Harry suggested. You must have known about this place for a long time. Why bring it up now? Why haven't you gone there before? Dumbledore asked what was on his mind at the moment. Harry shrugged. There was no point. Back then we were looking for the Horcruxes. But there is something else I want to check this time around, Harry said. I see. Dumbledore sighed. Very well, I will accompany you there. He stood up from his chair. I assume you want to depart as soon as possible, considering how little time we have left. Harry pulled his wand out and held his left arm in the air. Hold on to it. We are leaving now. It was a good thing I was yet to put on my pajamas, Dumbledore commented. Yeah, it may be a bit cold for that, Harry said as the old headmaster grabbed his arm. Let us go then. Harry lifted his wand up and the next instant, they were gone. When they opened their eyes, they were on a rocky cliff. It was a cold and windy night, and as usual in these parts of the country, it was raining. Dumbledore made a noise of displeasure before using some magic to protect himself from the weather. Lovely place this is. Yes, he knew how to choose them. Harry pointed ahead, towards a darker area in the rocky walls. If my memory doesn't fail me, the cave should be over there. Let us proceed with caution then. If this cave was used by the individual that you claimed, then I have no doubts about the presence of powerful protections. Dumbledore warned him. As they approached the cave, the presence of magic became more obvious. There is a powerful anti-muggle ward set around the area, Dumbledore noted. It should be in that hole over there. Harry pointed at a nearby opening, just tall enough for a person to pass without bending down. Should be. I had assumed you had been here before, at the very least in your previous world, Dumbledore said. I did, but it's been too long, and you were the one who brought me here that time. I'll say we are already lucky I managed to operate this close to the target. Harry chuckled. Considering your mastery of occlumency, I doubt it was luck, but let us not dwell on that. Dumbledore glanced at the pitch-black hole. Yes, let's. Harry made a hand gesture. Old people, children and women first, isn't that what the Muggles like to say? Dumbledore laughed. You want to use your headmaster as a shield? Well, I do recall doing absolutely nothing the last time I was here. So you either removed any protections by yourself or there was nothing dangerous to remove. I would still be extra careful with any detection charms put in place by him. Fair enough. Dumbledore scanned the entrance using all the detection spells he knew. He was being very thorough with this. He didn't want to miss anything. Harry left the work to the headmaster. The old man was much more knowledgeable than him about these types of things. I am done. There is only a detection charm placed near that wall. It seems a bit light on protections, Dumbledore commented. Not really. How many people know about his real identity and his past? The only reason you found this cave the last time was because you spent a very long time studying his early years of life, when he still lived at that orphanage. Harry spoke as the headmaster cleared out the charms. Once he was done, he stood in silence for a moment, considering something. I remember that orphanage well enough. It was an awful place. No child should grow up in a place like that. There was a tinge of sadness in his voice. Yes, growing up with no parents or anyone who cares for you is rough. Harry spoke from personal experience. Maybe I shouldn't have left him there. I always wondered if I had done things differently. Oh, please stop that nonsense, Professor. Having a bad childhood doesn't excuse becoming a murdering psychopath, Harry told him. Yes, I suppose you are right, Dumbledore said. I suppose you are right, he repeated. Come on, let's open this thing. Harry cast a Lumos charm. I believe that wall can move. Dumbledore glanced at it. I was going to suggest the same. He tapped it with his wand. After feeding it a bit of magic, the wall moved aside, revealing the real entrance to the cave. Oh, very impressive. Dumbledore stared at the insides of the cavern. It was much bigger than he expected. There was a large lake that went all around it, with a small rocky island in the middle. Dumbledore's eyes moved around before landing on the small island. I assume that what we came to look for is there. Harry smiled. It used to be the first time around. And now? Dumbledore raised an eyebrow. Usually he was the one with answers and not the questions. He hid one of his Horcruxes on that island. There is a magical fountain that needs to be emptied first, Harry said. What? Did you know about this since the beginning? Why did we wait this long to come here? Dumbledore exclaimed. Because it was a fake. Sirius's brother was one of his most trusted men, but he betrayed his Dark Lord in the end. Regulus Black took the Horcrux from here and left an imitation. The real one should have been hidden in the Black household, Harry explained. But it won't be there anymore. Is that what you think? Otherwise you would have already tried to gain access to that house. I think at this point it is very safe to assume that Voldemort has recalled all his Horcruxes. The Ravenclaw diadem was missing, and so was the diary. We did find the ring, but there was no soul in there. Very well then. We are not looking for a Horcrux. What did we come here for? Dumbledore questioned him. Harry approached the waters, and waved his wand over it. Pyros. Several balls of fire appeared, and were sent flying to several spots before they stopped and remained levitating over the lake. Harry knelt down and stared at the dark waters. He could still see nothing. It's too dark. Is there supposed to be something there? Dumbledore looked too. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be looking for. Help me out a bit. Use your most potent light spell inside the waters. I need to make sure. Dumbledore nodded, even if he still was not sure what Harry was trying to find. He did detect traces of some very unpleasant magic inside this cavern. They both manifested large spheres of light inside the waters. Everything became as clear as if it was day, and they were able to even look at the stones at the bottom of the lake. Other than stones, there was nothing in there. They are gone. Harry now was lamenting not coming here before, but perhaps he had taken them years ago. What? Inferi? Harry answered the question before Dumbledore finished it. An army of Inferi. We are here once more, to say goodbye. Another year has come to an end. The headmaster began his speech. Harry was not paying much attention. He was thinking about the next step. Everything was indicating that Voldemort's return was imminent. If he was bold enough to get that close to London and retrieve his Inferi, that meant he was done, or at least very close to be done, with whatever preparations he had been working on. His eyes scanned the Slytherin table. Pansy had not returned to school. If he is back, her family is going to be in great danger. It did not take much to anger Voldemort. He could only imagine what he would do when he came back and found that Parkinson had been acting as Dark Lord in his place and deceiving everyone in the process. The other Death Eaters would either hurry to return to his side or be killed for their betrayal. Things were about to change. He was sure of that, but didn't know what the best thing to do now was. Neville was still here, and Voldemort would surely come after him. So as long as he kept a close eye on the boy who lived, it would be a matter of time before he stumbles upon some of his followers at least. And the winner of this year's Quidditch Cup is Gryffindor. Professor McGonagall proclaimed with joy. Everyone at his table started to celebrate and cheer. Harry stopped his inner musings and glanced at Ginny. She looked so happy right now, but how long would that happiness last? He was willing to do whatever it took to protect her. And not only Ginny, but now he also had a family. And there were also Luna, Astoria, and Daphne. He moved his eyes to the podium. Dumbledore was standing next to McGonagall with a smile on his face. But Harry could tell that the man was very worried. They had decided to avoid informing the Order yet, at least not directly. The old headmaster had shared some ideas with him about how they could get more information about what is happening in the Ministry. That was very possibly the first place that Voldemort would try to control, because as long as he held a firm grip on the Ministry, there was not much that the Aurors could do against him. It was the same thing that Parkinson had done, and it worked great for him. Of course, Parkinson did not have the ability to remain in power for much longer. The Gryffindor table erupted into cheers again when the headmaster announced that they had also won the House Cup. Apparently it had been a long time since the same house won both trophies. You look very grumpy. Hermione touched his shoulder. Do I? Harry glanced at her. She gave him an inquisitive glance. You usually look very serious, but there is something more this time. You are always too observant, Harry admitted. Did something happen? Gryffindor had just won the Quidditch Cup and the House Cup. You also have one of the highest grades in our year. I bet they would make you a prefect next year if you were a bit older, so I suppose that something did happen. But I can't talk about it right now, Harry said. You can't? I mean, what could it possibly? Harry, come on. Lyra pulled from his other side. We are making a toast. She handed him his cup. He will have to leave his worries for another day. Ouch! Harry grabbed onto the girl and lifted her up. Ah! Holly yelled when she was tossed over his shoulders. Harry, be careful. Lily gave him a side glance. You are getting a bit too big to throw yourself at me like that, Holly. Next year you may bring me to the ground. Harry shook her a bit and this made her giggle. I'm only 6, she said defiantly. Almost 7, Harry reminded her. It would only be 2 months before her birthday. Stop it, Harry. Everyone is looking. Lyra was becoming embarrassed. They had just gotten off the train and all their classmates were still around. Bah, leave it. She looks so happy now, Lily said. She knew that this year had been particularly difficult for her youngest daughter, as she had spent most of her time alone in the house. Yes. And you have no reason to complain. James glanced at his daughter, who was still clutching onto his arm. You did the same to me. Lyra became more embarrassed. But you didn't lift me up like that. Ah, I see if that is what you want. James went to lift his daughter up. No, stop. Lyra panicked and began to struggle, trying to free herself from her father's grip. You are all very lively. Molly Weasley approached them. All her children were right behind her. Molly. So good to see you. Lily greeted her friend. They hadn't seen each other that much during this year. Your family is also very lively, especially those two. Lily pointed at the twins. Hey, we haven't done anything, George exclaimed. Not today. That is for sure, Fred added. You put a spider on my breakfast, Ron shouted. Come on, Ron. It wasn't even a real spider, Ginny chuckled. Her youngest brother was often the target of the twins' pranks, but they never took it too far with him. Still, you did not hesitate to crush it. Lyra glanced at her friend. It was kinda scary. While the children were talking, Molly got a bit closer to Lily. Lily noticed this. Is something wrong, Molly? No, well, there was something I wanted to discuss with you and James when you have time, Ollie said, looking a bit nervous. Of course you can come visit any day you want. James is usually home after 5 in the afternoon, if you need him there too. Lily wondered what could have the fearless Weasley matriarch so preoccupied. Then I'll visit you in a couple of days. How are things going? Harry sat down in front of the desk. Shouldn't I be the one asking? Since, you know, I am the father. James rested in his chair. You look stressed, Harry pointed out. James sighed in defeat. I don't know how long I can keep going. Things at the ministry are becoming more tense. People have started to become divided into factions. That's not new, there have always been factions in there, Harry commented. Yes, but not like this. When Fudge was minister, not everyone liked him, but even the ones who didn't agree with him. James seemed hesitant to continue. What is going on? Tell me. Harry leaned forward on the table. There has been talk of starting an uprising to remove Lord Parkinson as minister, James said in a grave voice. Why now? What's the hurry? They have begun replacing ministry personnel. In just a few months, there may not be anyone left working at the ministry that disagrees with Parkinson. Are they going to fire you? Harry asked. They haven't touched the aura department yet. Madam Bones still has a lot of authority left, but they have begun with other departments, like the misuse of Muggle artifacts. Arthur Weasley. James shook his head. More than half the department has been replaced. I suppose it makes sense. That is Parkinson's way of doing things. But this is for the best. Harry surprised his father with those words. James glanced at him. For the best? Do you not realize how serious this is? Once there is no one left to oppose the minister's decisions, he would basically have full control of the country. I do understand it, but it won't matter for long. Let the minister do what he wants. I was going to suggest that you get out of there anyway, Harry said. Out of the ministry? Like quitting my job? James was baffled. Not just you, but everyone who, as you said, disagrees with the current minister. It would be best if all of you got out of there as soon as possible. Okay, what are you not telling me? James asked with suspicion. Voldemort is back, and I mean the real one this time. Harry just dropped that bomb like it was nothing. James remained silent for a few seconds, like he was trying to process what he had just heard. What? Maybe, Harry added. Maybe? So you are not sure, and Dumbledore is also in this. You are going to have to explain that a lot better. Let's see. Harry tried his best to inform his father of everything he had learned during the last month. The minister being the mastermind behind the attack on the school, Harry tracking down Dolohov, what he saw at the empty castle, and finally what he saw back at the cavern. You went after Dolohov alone, James shouted. That's not even remotely the most important part. Did you hear what I said? Harry asked. I heard everything, James muttered. Do you know something about Rookwood's disappearance? Have any other lords from Parkinson's faction gone missing? James made an expression of displeasure. There is no way for me to know. I have been stuck at a desk for months. The investigators won't share anything important with us, since they are all in Parkinson's pockets. Moody must be going crazy. Harry could not imagine that man doing desk work for months. Last week he burned his desk. This is the 5th time it got destroyed. James had a tired smile on his face. But going back to what's important, just because Rookwood went missing, and some undead disappeared. Inferi. Yes, well, you don't know exactly when those things were taken. Voldemort could have taken them before leaving the country. Or, Who knows, maybe some other dark wizard stumbled upon that cave and did something to them. This is not hard evidence, Harry, James explained. I know it's not. That's why Dumbledore doesn't want to share anything about this yet. He doesn't want to cause a mass panic. That's understandable. If someone of his status suddenly started to make declarations about that dangerous man coming back. This is something that everyone has been fearing since the day of his disappearance. Everyone was dreading his return. James realized something. Is that why you don't want me in the ministry? You think he is going to attack there first? Harry shrugged. It's just a possibility. But between the fake Dark Lord and the real one, all of you are going to be in danger. My job has always been a dangerous one, and I have accepted the risk. I will not run away, and I'm sure that my colleagues would agree with me. James said with conviction. If that monster is coming back, I will be there to receive him. Harry wanted to tell his father that he didn't know what Voldemort was truly capable of. But to be fair, he also didn't know what this version of the Dark Lord had been up to. If he was anything like the one Harry knew, this Voldemort would also be obsessed with achieving immortality, by any possible means. Above all else, what that man feared was death. The fact that he recalled all the scattered pieces of his soul from the containers where he had previously placed them, must mean that he had found another solution to his dilemma. What kind of answer has he found this time around? What kind of monster have you become now, Tom? Harry pondered. The next 2 weeks passed in relative peace. Harry had received letters from Ginny, telling him that her mother had finally allowed her to fly her broom at home, now that she had demonstrated her skills during the school year. She sounded happy, and now that she was with her family, the ugly events during the end of the year were starting to be forgotten. He also received a letter from Daphne. She wanted to let him know that she would likely be hard to reach during the entire summer, because she was going back to Madame Yaffel's shop to continue her apprenticeship. That girl is going to become a scary witch in the future, Harry thought. Daphne was already extremely talented at practical magic, and Morgana Le Fay was the most dangerous witch Harry had ever met during his previous life. Had she been free from the curse and able to move around, it may have been her, the one who ended up killing Voldemort. If Daphne learns from someone like that, it's hard to say how far she will go. Harry would have loved to enjoy a couple of months of peace and quiet after that eventful end of his third year, but this time the silence was doing nothing but making him uneasy. Dumbledore has not contacted me yet. That must mean that nothing has happened. He had given the headmaster all the information he had. Keeping secrets would do nothing but increase the danger of the situation at this point. He had also told him to keep a close eye on the ministry and inform him if anything happened. It's been almost 3 weeks since he killed Dolohov, and since someone had taken Lord Rookwood out, but none of the newspapers wrote anything about it. There was also barely anything written about the invasion at the school. A short article on the lower corner of the 5th page, written by some nameless author in the Prophet, had said something about a small incident that had occurred during the minister's party. The article only made a passing mention of one student getting hurt by a careless accident but said little more than that. It was obvious that the minister had used all his power to prevent the public from finding out. This was made easier thanks to Harry's actions, who eliminated the invaders away from prying eyes and then used the castle elves to clean up the evidence. Other than the rumors about his sister and her friends being attacked by some masked men, there was nothing to show. The headmaster didn't even attempt to get the real story out, as it would do nothing but bring panic into the public while also damaging his own image, since Minister Parkinson would surely spin the story to make him seem like a senile old man who is imagining things. Shit. He accidentally put too much pressure on the quill and ruined the page. I need to focus. This is important. He had been having a hard time doing that for the past few days. His mind is always working on the many possibilities, but he had to try. This was also necessary. He glanced down at the large tome where he had been writing for so many hours already. Harry took a letter opener from the other side of his desk. The blade was completely dull, but a quick transfiguration changed that. The now sharp utensil did a clean job at removing the ruined page. I was almost done with that one. Now I have to start again. Harry grumbled and his stomach started to make noises. What time is it? He had already forgotten how long it had been since he had eaten lunch. Just then the door to his room opened without a knock. Hey, His sister poked her head inside. Good, you are dressed. You could have knocked. Harry was sure that his sister had been taught everything about manners and etiquette. She just chose to ignore them. She chuckled. That's boring. And I had my hands busy. Look, Lyra came into the room while carrying a silver tray. On top of it was a plate with a delicious-looking sandwich and a glass of orange juice. Mum said she didn't want to bother you when you were working, so. I missed dinner, huh? He took a glance at the large mechanical watch that was hanging from the wall on his right side. It was already 30 minutes past 8. His family usually had dinner at 7 o'clock. Thank you, can you leave the tray over there? Harry pointed at the coffee table that he placed near the center of his room. Whoa, it's been a while since I entered this room. Lyra rested the tray on the table and looked around the neatly organized bedroom. I try to keep it clean, Harry commented. He knew well why his sister had not come into this room often. The previous him was not fond of visits. I like it, she said with a smile. Her eyes then moved towards the book on Harry's table. Are you studying already, that one thick book too? It reminds me of the one Hermione is sometimes reading. I am not reading this book, I am writing it, Harry corrected. You are writing a book? Lyra was surprised to hear this. She didn't know her brother had such hobbies. What are you writing about? She got closer to take a better look. What I am writing is not exactly a story. Harry closed the book to show her the cover. It was made of blue-tinted leather with the silver silhouette of a hippogriff placed in the middle, and the letter P at the top. Is that the symbol of our house? Lyra had seen that one before. That day when she went to the basement of the Potter Manor. This is a grimoire. The House Potter grimoire. A grimoire? Isn't that the book that contains all the family magic? She recalled a conversation she had with her friends about that topic. Ginny had told her that her mother's family, the Prewetts, used to have one, but it was lost when they were attacked by dark wizards. Astoria mentioned that her family still had their own grimoire, but she was not allowed to read it until she was older. Luna's family also had theirs, and she had actually read it but apparently didn't understand anything because it was written in Old Gaelic. That is correct. Harry stood up from his desk and went to the small coffee table to eat his dinner. Our house used to have one, but it was lost a long time ago. There is nothing recorded about what happened, so it remains a mystery. Lyra sat next to him on the couch before realizing something. But wait, why are you the one writing it? Shouldn't it be Dad the one who does that? Harry smiled. Both of our parents have already written a few pages of the book, but it's up to me to fill the rest. I have yet so much to write in there. Is that what you have been doing all week? Lyra had barely seen her brother since they came back from school. He always seemed to be busy with something. Yes, you could say that this is going to be my summer project. Harry took another bite of his sandwich. This is really good. What sauce did they put on the turkey? Lyra gave Harry a look of suspicion. Are you writing those weird spells that you use sometimes? Like that giant fireball that killed the basilisk? I will write down every bit of magic I know. That's why it will take a while. He was telling mostly the truth with that statement. He wanted to make sure that all the knowledge he had accumulated during his lifetime did not go to waste. This wasn't just his personal knowledge, but that of many others who had contributed. Without their help, Harry would not be the wizard he was today. He did not want all of that work to be wasted. The only exception he was making was his knowledge about demonology. That was not a branch of magic he was willing to let anyone learn. It was just too dangerous. That knowledge he would take with him to the grave. What's the hurry? You just finished your 3rd year. Lyra could not understand why he was writing this now, instead of doing it after graduating at least. This time is as good as any other. It's not like I'm going to learn much more with a few years at Hogwarts. Harry told her. Lyra did not miss the implication of what he was saying. Is this like one of those things you promised you would tell me, you know, about yourself? She had not forgotten about that promise. Have you been keeping up with your occlumency training? Of course. Go ahead and look for yourself, she said with confidence. Harry would rather not do that. He had not forgotten what happened the last time he went inside her mind. But he did make a promise to his sister, and he was not going to break it. Once he was done with his dinner, he pulled out his wand and glanced at her. Okay, lay down, get comfortable, and look into my eyes. As soon as she did, he pointed the wand at her forehead. Legilimency. Lyra had not been lying when she said she had been practicing. He could read her surface thoughts, but her memories were no longer moving around in plain sight. She had locked them behind protections with the use of occlumency. Of course, if he really tried, he could certainly break down those defenses. But for a second-year student who had just begun to practice, this was a really good result. I'm impressed. He really was. Unless the attacker put in quite a bit of effort, they would not be able to steal her secrets. You are? Lyra snapped back to reality, and heard his words. Harry chuckled. I really am. You have clearly put a lot of effort into learning occlumency. I did. She smiled with joy. All those hours she spent meditating seemed to have paid off. But don't get overconfident. You have just begun to learn that discipline and are still a long way from becoming a master at it. Promise me that you will continue your training. Of course I will. For a moment Lyra had a strange feeling. Her brother's words sounded like he was planning on going away. Harry? Yes, your reward, he said. Yes. Then, will you answer anything I ask? Lyra's face became more serious. She had been thinking a lot about this, and the questions had been piling up. Instead of just sitting here and answering stuff, let's do something better. Like what? Lyra gave him a dubious look. You are not backing down now, right? Harry pressed his wand towards his own temple. Why don't you take a look into my mind and see for yourself? What? Lyra exclaimed. You want me to enter your mind? Lyra asked again. There are some things that unless you see them for yourself you won't be keen on believing them. I'm afraid that explaining my, let's say, special circumstances with words, well, it won't be enough.
Is it that incredible? I knew it.
You are a time traveler, right? Lyra stood up from the couch with excitement. Calm down, Lyra. You'll see soon enough. You need to sit back down.
Right.
She calmed down a bit. So what do I have to do? Normally you would use legilimency on me, but since you haven't learned it yet, we'll have to do it differently. Harry pointed his wand at her. Hold on, isn't that the same as before? You will enter my mind, Lyra said. It is a bit more complex than that. A mental attack like legilimency works by establishing a connection between both minds. The one doing the attack will always have the advantage. But if the other person is skilled enough, they could use that chance to turn the attack back to the aggressor. You mean that I can enter the mind of someone who is attacking me? Lyra had never heard of that before. It is possible, and I will put aside my defenses to grant you entrance, so it will be very easy in this case. Now, let's begin. Harry used the same spell again, but this time instead of trying to access Lyra's inner mind, he opened the connection even wider while removing any resistance on his end. A moment later, Lyra's mind was diving into his. When she regained her senses, Lyra found herself looking at the moon and stars. What is this? When did we leave the house? We didn't. Look around you. As she heard her brother's voice, she looked ahead of her and was shocked by the view. Whoa, what in Merlin's name happened here? She appeared to be in the middle of a large city, but everything was in ruins. Most of the buildings were half collapsed, and there was fire everywhere. What city is this? She asked. We are less than 20 blocks away from the River Thames. If you look towards the east, I believe that St. Paul's Cathedral is that way. And if you keep going in that direction, you will reach the Tower of London, or whatever was left of it.
This is London?
Lyra did not have the chance to visit these big cities very often, but she was somewhat familiar with London at least. This is not your London. This is, or was, my London, Harry told her. Lyra made a confused expression, but when she turned around to look at her brother, she could not find him. Harry, where are you? Look to your right. She now realized that the voice of her brother was not coming from anywhere in particular, and then remembered that she was inside his mind. When Lyra followed his instructions, she found a small group of young people walking through the ruined streets of the city. She had no idea who they were at first, but they began to walk directly towards her, and as they got closer, their faces became a lot more familiar. Are they? No, they look older. They are older than the ones you know, around 8 years older, in fact. But you can still tell who they are? Harry asked. Of course. Lyra sounded a bit offended by the question. The one at the front of the group was a tall young man with short, dark hair, brilliant green eyes and a pair of circular glasses. He was wearing a dirty brown trench coat. but no matter how ragged he looked or how much older he was, she would never fail to recognize her own brother. "That's you." Lyra smiled. "You look so old. I was only 21 back then." Harry's voice sounded slightly bitter. "And the other ones?" She pointed at the bushy-haired girl at Harry's side. "Hermione. Wow, she looks so pretty, even with those dirty robes." A bit behind Harry was a red-headed man with slightly long hair and a very unfriendly expression. "Is that Bill Weasley? Or Charlie?" "That is Ron Weasley," Harry answered. "That's Ron. You were friends with him." Lyra raised an eyebrow. From all of Ginny's brothers, that was definitely her least favorite. And considering that Percy was one of them, that was saying a lot. "I was." Harry did not deny it. "I don't know who the last one is." On Harry's other side was a tall and strong-looking man. He had short brown hair and a chiseled jawline. The man was wearing something that resembled more armor than a wizard tunic and carried a sword on his hip. "He is kinda handsome though. You do know him. That is Neville Longbottom." "What? That's Neville?" Lyra was completely shocked. "Is he really going to look like that in a few years?" "I can't give you any guarantees. This version of Neville has gone through a lot already." "Version?" Lyra took a step back when she noticed that they just kept coming closer to her. "Wait, Neville." She put her hands forward as to stop him, but the figure of Neville continued forward and passed right through her as if she wasn't there. "This is just a memory, remember. You cannot interact with them in any way. You can just watch." The voice of her brother resounded everywhere and made her feel a bit foolish for her actions. "Right, I forgot." Lyra turned around and could now see the backs of the group. "Where are they going?" As she asked that, the top of one of the nearby buildings exploded into a rain of fire and debris. Some massive figure came crashing down and landed close to the group. The creature reminded Lyra of a gorilla. She had only seen its picture in books, but this one seemed many times bigger than those. Its fur was also of a different color. This one was bright red, just like its eyes, and it had 4 arms. That thing roared with pure rage, and everything around began to shake and break. "To answer your question, they came to kill a demon." "A demon?" Lyra almost jumped from the shock. "But demons are not real, are they?" "Demons are very much real, Lyra. They just don't exist in the same realm of reality we do," the detached voice of Harry explained to her. "Then what is that one doing here?" Lyra pointed at the creature. The other Harry and his friends had already started their fierce fight with the demon as Lyra and he spoke. That one and many others were brought here by a madman who only cared about achieving his goals, no matter the price. Lyra then realized that something was missing, or more like someone. Where is Ginny? What about Luna and Astoria? What about me? Why aren't we helping you fight that thing? If her brother was already in his 20s during this time, that meant that she and her friends were already adults too. Luna was busy, working on something else. I never met Astoria, so I don't know what she could have been doing by then. As for Ginny, she was killed, almost 2 years before this happened, Harry said with a bitter tone. "What? Ginny died?" Lyra turned around, but of course her brother was not there. "Can you explain that better?" "There is not much to explain. She was killed at the beginning of the war. Back then, we didn't even know there was a war at all. We all thought that it was over. We were so wrong." "What about me? And Holly? Mom, Dad?" She could only guess the worst now. "Calm down, Lyra. It's not what you think." Lyra's eyes did not move away from the battle. She could never have imagined that she would see something like this. "Then, this is the future. Is this going to happen to our world?" She had reached a dreadful conclusion. "What you are seeing right now is not your future. This is not your world." Lyra's eyes opened wide. "Not my world?" "Correct. Since humans began to manipulate time with the use of time magic, there have been countless fractures in our time and space continuum. As a result, many different realities and timelines have been born. What you are seeing before you is just one of the many possibilities." "Are you saying that this is like a different reality?" Lyra asked. "Yes. A grim reality in which Voldemort at his lowest point decided to open a gate to the netherworld and bring a host of demons to destroy the world. To you this is just a different reality, something that didn't happen and will not happen in your world. But to me this is my past, my old home. Lyra realized. These were Harry's memories, so he had to have lived this before. You came from another world. The burning city around Lyra began to vanish into smoke, along with the figures of the demon and the ones fighting it, and it was soon replaced by a different landscape. It wasn't exactly a better one. This one was a completely barren land, devoid of everything. There were no signs of life or buildings or anything at all. Even the sun was looking dim while washing over the grey dirt and stones. You are correct. Lyra detected that the voice of her brother was different, and it was now coming from behind her. When she turned around, she found herself face to face with a tall man. He had short dark hair, an unkempt beard, and wore some ragged clothes, filled with holes and covered in that grey dirt. It looked like this person had gone through hell and somehow came back, but a quick look into his bright green eyes was enough for Lyra to know that she was in front of her brother. You look like shit. Don't let Mom hear you say that, Harry chuckled. So, this is what you really looked like? Lyra asked. This is what I looked like by the end. Yes. Lyra moved her eyes around the area. There wasn't much to see. And where are we? We are in the same place as before, but around 20 years later than the battle you saw, Harry explained. 20 years? Lyra muttered. By this point, most of the planet looked like this. They destroyed everything. The few remnants of humanity had to hide underground. You didn't beat the demons? Lyra exclaimed. She could not imagine her brother losing a battle, not even to something like a demon. No, I'm afraid not. This was not something that could be won in the first place. The moment Voldemort opened that gate, he doomed us all. You know who did all of this? Lyra had heard terrible tales about the Dark Lord, but she could never have thought he could destroy the world in such a way. Did you at least kill him? I did, I think, at least. You are not sure? Lyra asked. No, you see. That's when I died. You died? But wait. I am not a ghost, Harry hurried to add. That's not what I was going to say. Lyra looked offended. I don't understand either how it happened. I remember dying in this world and then I woke up in the body of a younger version of myself. In your world. Lyra stared at him for a while without saying anything, but then all of a sudden she smiled at him. I think I understand now. I just have one question. Is it about what happened to your original brother? I'm sorry, but no, of course not. Lyra interrupted him. Why would I care about that ungrateful brat? He tried to kill me. Oh, Harry had not anticipated her to care so little about that. Then, what question did you have? To be fair, I have 1,000 questions. But remember that day in the basement when my friends and I snuck in? Yes, I do remember. That was very reckless. One of my golems almost killed you, Harry said. Hee. Yes, that day. Lyra looked a bit embarrassed. That day, I asked you if you were really my brother. And I told you to never doubt that, Harry added. Did you really mean that, or was it something you Of course I meant it, Lyra. I'm not the kind of person who likes to manipulate others with lies. You should know that by now. Harry looked down to meet her eyes. I may have come from a different reality, but I am still Harry Potter, the son of Lily and James Potter, and for as long as you consider me your brother, that is what I will be. Lyra jumped at him and gave him a crushing hug. You have 1,000 questions, huh? Well, if there is anything else you want to ask while we are here. Lyra shook her head. I think I'd rather not ask. She wanted to ask about what happened to her parents and the other versions of herself and Holly, but Harry never mentioned any of them, and she had a good idea as to why. Let's go back then. Sensing that she had seen enough, Harry pulled her out of his mind. A minute later, Lyra opened her eyes. How was it? Harry asked. I feel a bit dizzy, Lyra answered while holding her head. That is a normal after effect, but that is not what I meant. Lyra lifted her gaze to look at him directly. You have learned what you wanted to know about me, right? Harry asked. I suppose. I mean, that explains so much. No wonder you can do all that stuff with your magic. Lyra exclaimed. I did go through a lot, yes. Harry nodded. And you are like super old, Lyra added. Pardon. Harry raised an eyebrow. I just wanted to thank you again, Lily. Molly, I already told you that's unnecessary. James just gave him a recommendation, nothing more. Lily felt a bit overwhelmed. Molly Weasley had already thanked her a dozen times and sent a large number of cakes to their house. After finding out that Arthur had lost his job at the ministry, James spoke to Lord Greengrass, and this one agreed to give the man a good position in one of his businesses in France. This new job took away more of his free time since he had to travel to another country, so he could not be at home as much as he would have wanted. But it also paid 3 times more than his previous job, so the family was now a lot more relaxed when it came to money. And I insist, we would have been in a lot of trouble without your help. I brought another cake, a chocolate one this time. She pulled a small wooden box from her bag, and this one grew several times in size before Molly finally placed it on the kitchen table and opened it up, revealing a delicious-looking cake. Cake! Holly became excited and went to fetch some plates. Lily glanced at her youngest daughter with worry. She was going to get extremely fat if things continued like this. Is Lyra here? Ginny asked while standing next to the table. She is in the backyard. I believe she is with Harry, Lily said. Ginny hurried out of the kitchen. This was the first time she was able to visit the Potter house since the beginning of the summer, and it had already been a month since classes ended. She opened the door to the large back garden and was welcomed by a pleasant breeze. Her eyes moved over all the greenery and found someone sitting on the bench that was placed beneath the apple tree, near the center of the garden. As she got closer, Ginny realized that the person in question was not Lyra but Harry instead. He was reading a book while also writing something in a notebook. She stood there for a few seconds, not sure of what to say. Ginny felt a bit conflicted about interrupting him while he seemed so concentrated. But then Harry turned to face her, and greeted her with a kind smile. It's been a while, how have you been? Ginny returned the greeting with her best smile. Were you looking for my sister? I believe she was taking a bath, but she should be done soon. We had a practice scheduled. Practice? You mean like the ones we did during the school year? She saw Harry give a short nod. Do you mind if I join? Not at all, please. He offered some room to sit down, and she happily agreed. How is your father liking the new job? Well, I think he would like to spend more time near home, but he does like to work in that shop. He says there are several Muggle-borns who know a lot of interesting stuff. I mean interesting for him. Harry recalled the man's obsession with anything made by Muggles, including rubber ducks. Next month we are going to be spending some time in France. Harry noticed that she seemed upset about something. Are you not looking forward to that? Oh, it's not that. It's just the Quidditch Cup finals are on August 25th. Ireland is going to play against Bulgaria, and I'm going to miss it, Ginny exclaimed. The Quidditch Cup, that brought up some memories for Harry. In his past life he did go watch that game Ginny was talking about. There are going to be a lot of important people watching that game. He was getting a bad feeling now. 1 week after the end of the school term. I can't take it anymore. Calm down, Pansy. I know how you feel, but we must be patient. Lady Parkinson sighed again. It had been 2 weeks since her husband had pulled her daughter from school in a rush, even though there was only 1 week left to finish, and asked them to stay at the main family manor. Pansy had to tell her friends that she was going on an early vacation, even when she had no idea what was going on. But Mom, how long is this going to take? I can't even contact my friends. What about my plans for the summer? Pansy had been patient enough during the first days, but after her father had continued to deny her any explanation about why she had to stay locked at home, she was beginning to lose her mind. Martha, Pansy called, but no one answered. Where is the maid? Oh, I'm not sure. She hasn't answered my calls all morning. Aurora Parkinson made a worried expression. I'm sure your father had her occupied with something. Lord Parkinson only allowed a few selected servants to work at their main manor, but recently he had sent them all away, except for the head maid, Martha, who was left to take care of the meals and some basic cleaning. And when is he coming back? Pansy asked. He didn't return last night as usual. Lady Parkinson glanced down at the table. I'm sure he will be here soon. Pansy threw her mother a look of suspicion. Do you know what is going on? Is there some sort of crisis at the ministry? I'm not sure, Pansy. Your father will give us some explanation. Have some patience, please. What she just told her daughter wasn't exactly a lie. She did not know what could have happened now that her husband was so paranoid about it. Of course, she wasn't oblivious to her husband's darker side or his past as a follower of the Dark Lord. She even agreed with many of their points, even if she didn't like their violent methods. After the disappearance of Lord Voldemort, she had hoped that her husband would take it as a chance to make things right, to leave behind that dark side of his. Everything seemed to be going great, until a few years back, when her husband became more secretive and quiet, like he was back then. Everything became worse when he was declared Minister of Magic. She saw him become surrounded by questionable individuals like Walden McNair, Antonin Dolohov, and even Yaxley after this one came out of prison. Aurora was sure that her husband did not become minister without doing something illegal or immoral. But he would not tell her about it. Instead, he would be constantly having secret meetings with those who followed him closely. It almost reminded her of what the Dark Lord used to do. Wanting to shake away those thoughts, Aurora looked around the dining hall. Her eyes moved to the large grandfather clock on the side. It's getting a bit late. Maybe I should begin to prepare something for dinner. Pansy almost jumped at hearing this. You want to cook? Lady Parkinson began to laugh when she saw her daughter's reaction. You know, I used to bake when you were little. I don't remember that. Martha is the one who prepares all our meals. Father says that the kitchen is no place for people of our status. Pansy recalled hearing that many times before. Yes, he does say that, and that is why she didn't cook often. But back in my house I was taught that a noble lady should know their way around the kitchen and the bedroom. She gave Pansy a playful wink. Mum, Pansy became clearly embarrassed. Come on, you can keep me company. She stood up from her chair, and maybe you'll learn something. I don't want to learn to cook, that's what servants are for. Pansy huffed. It won't hurt you to learn a few basic things. Maybe one day you will use those skills to make someone happy. Aurora gave her daughter a side glance and saw her mood change. Speaking of, how are things going with that boy? Potter, was it? Well, Pansy looked at the ground. We haven't spoken in a while. Is this because of what happened that day? Aurora knew about how those Slytherin seniors tried to use her daughter to lure Potter into Hogsmeade and attack him. She had a good talk with their parents after that, but she wished her husband had done something more for once. That was not your fault. Harry said that too, but I should never have gone along with those boys. I should have warned Harry earlier. See? He understands. I have only met Mr. Potter very briefly, but he seemed like a very mature boy for his age. Lady Parkinson smiled. It's not just that. I'm sure that Daphne also likes him. Pansy said with a depressed tone. Greengrass. Aurora lifted an eyebrow. She was fairly familiar with Lady Greengrass. She was one of the most beautiful women she knew, and for the few occasions where she spotted her eldest daughter, it appeared that she had inherited much from her mother. Well, a bit of competition won't hurt you. Competition? Pansy looked confused. She never had to compete for anything before. You are all still very young. You will have plenty of time to conquer Mr. Potter next year. I'll give you some tips, she suggested. Pansy's mood seemed to improve after that. Really? Like what? Let me think. At that moment they heard the fireplace become ablaze with green flames. Dad is here, Pansy exclaimed. How odd. He normally uses the flue from his studio. Aurora stared at the green flames and saw the figure of her husband emerge from it, but she immediately realized that something was wrong when she saw his face. Get your things, we have to leave. Lord Parkinson screamed, his expression contorted with fear. Both Pansy and her mother became alarmed. You are hurt. Aurora just noticed that her husband was not only terrified but his robes were in a terrible state and his left arm was bleeding. Where is Albert? Lord Parkinson ignored his wife's concerns while he looked around the hall. The butler? You sent him away, remember? Perseus, tell me what is going on. Who attacked you? Aurora asked. Pansy approached her father. Dad, what is going on? You lock us at home, then you disappear, and Lord Parkinson turned his gaze to her and screamed. Now. This was so out of character that neither Pansy nor Aurora knew how to react. One thing that everyone could agree on when it came to Lord Parkinson was that the man was always calm and composed, no matter the situation. Pansy had never seen her father lose his mind in such an extreme way, while Aurora hadn't seen him like this since. Perseus, is this about? She did not want to ask, The words stuck in her mouth. Those bloody traitors. All of them bloody hell. I'm going to kill them all. Lord Parkinson was not in the mood to listen at the moment. He clutched at his wound while pacing around the dining hall as his wife and daughter waited for an explanation. After a minute of this, he stopped and looked at them. Forget your things. We must leave now. We can go to the beach cottage in Italy. No one knows about that one. We have a cottage in Italy. Pansy definitely didn't know about that. We haven't been there in 15 years. The house must be a mess. And you haven't told me what is going on yet. Who are we running away from? Aurora was now sure that her husband had gotten involved in something very dangerous, and probably illegal. She could only hope it had nothing to do with— Come on, get in the fireplace. We have to leave now before it's too late. They will come here soon. Perseus Parkinson exclaimed. Who is coming here? Pansy was beginning to panic also, after seeing her father like that, even though she didn't understand anything that was happening right now. How can anyone get here so easily? We have only given entrance to the Malfoys, and they are gone, Lady Parkinson said. Over many years Lord Parkinson had been extremely careful and reserved when it came to showing the location of his many properties to the public. Only one of them was used for parties while another was used for important meetings. But the main house, the Parkinson Ancestral Manor, they had only ever revealed the location to those who were to join their family. Lady Parkinson was only granted entrance the day of her engagement. Lucius Malfoy's son, Draco, was meant to marry Pansy, so they allowed their family access to their house when their engagement became official. But then Lucius died and the betrothal was cancelled by Lord Parkinson, who felt that the Malfoys had lost too much of their status and wealth, and were no longer worthy of such a marriage. A short time after that, both Draco and his mother Narcissa had disappeared in mysterious circumstances, never to be seen again. Aurora, as well as many of the ladies she spoke with on occasions, believed that Lucius had gotten involved in something shady. The man was well known for collecting dark artifacts. Perhaps a deal went wrong, and he was killed as a result. So most believed that both his wife and son were already dead, perhaps killed by the same person who ended Lucius's life. Lord Parkinson's expression changed when his wife mentioned the Malfoy name. The Malfoys are the worst of them all. They are all ungrateful traitors. After everything I have done for them, for our cause. Wait, have you seen Draco? Pansy was shocked. She never thought to hear about that boy again, after he disappeared in such a way. Narcissa and her son are alive. Aurora was shocked to hear this. I'll explain things later. Lord Parkinson took a handful of flu powder and threw it onto the fireplace. Farney's cottage. The powder turned into green smoke, but the flames failed to ignite. What? No! Parkinson yelled. The flue is not working. Aurora got closer to the fireplace to take a better look. How can that be? You just used it. They must have closed it from the ministry, Lord Parkinson concluded. Beads of sweat fell across his face as he stared at the fading smoke. But Dad, you are the minister. Who can do that to you? Pansy didn't understand what was happening, just that it was something very bad. Well, use apparition. Come here. Hurry. Lord Parkinson held his wand out and lifted it in the air. Pansy and her mother knew this was not the time to question him any further, so they immediately grabbed onto him and prepared to be pulled away. But nothing happened. Dad? Pansy glanced up at her father's pale face. I can't appar it, Lord Parkinson said with a trembling voice. An anti-apparition ward? Aurora exclaimed. But how can that be? What about our protections? No one should have been able to get so close to the manor without triggering their own safety wards. But if there was an anti-apparition charm in place, this meant that intruders were already around their home. What do we do? Aurora was truly scared now. Whoever had her husband so terrified was here now, and they could not escape. The family was startled by a series of tremendously loud noises. They heard something similar to an explosion, followed by the sounds of things breaking and scattering everywhere. That came from the main entrance, Lady Parkinson said. Mom, I'm scared, Pansy said, barely containing her tears. We are doomed. Lord Parkinson appeared to have given up by now. He let go of his wife and daughter and walked to a nearby chair where he sat down after placing his wand on the table. Can't we escape with brooms? We can maybe go to the last floor and fly away from there, Aurora suggested. We cannot escape any more, not from him. It doesn't matter what we use anymore, he will find us no matter where we go. Lord Parkinson slammed his hands on the table. Perseus, who are the Dark Lord? He didn't let her finish her question. Both Pansy and Aurora stared at him with a mixture of horror and disbelief. The Dark Lord, he is back, Lord Parkinson continued. Everyone who didn't immediately return to his side is probably dead already. But you were one of his most loyal followers. Why would he? Aurora then realized, looking at her husband's expression. What did you do? She shouted. What did you do? She ran to his side and pulled him up by his robes. Lord Parkinson did not want to look at her, so he moved his gaze away. I just wanted to be in charge for a while. I didn't think he would come back. You didn't? Perseus, please tell me yo. Pansy screamed when the door of the dining room was blasted apart. I'm sure that one was open, miss. A female voice said, Oh, but it is more fun that way. Another woman answered with a proud and smug tone. The Parkinsons heard the steps of several people getting closer. Aurora held her wand in hand. Pansy, come here. She hurried to pull her daughter behind her. Lord Parkinson moved his gaze to the destroyed entrance, but made no motion to pick up his wand or stand up from his seat. Two women entered the room first, followed by two more figures who had their heads covered by black robes. Aurora immediately recognized the dark-skinned beauty on the right. Trisha Zabini. And who? She gasped, in shock when she saw the other woman. This was a face she had not seen in many years, but she didn't seem to have gotten older. If anything, she looked younger. Despite her skin being much paler and her eyes having changed color to an unnatural yellow, she would never forget the face of the Dark Lord's most devoted follower, and the most deranged witch she had ever met in her life. Bellatrix, you are alive? Bella gave her a mocking smile. That is a very rude way to greet someone after so long. Aurora, I hope you don't mind the sudden visit, but we just let ourselves in.
What do you want?
We have never been enemies. What is this about? Aurora knew this was all her husband's fault, but she could only hope they could talk their way out of this one. Her eyes moved to the two covered individuals behind the women. One was very tall and towered over Bellatrix, while the other was much shorter than the two women. Your husband didn't tell you what he did? Bella looked at Parkinson and he lowered his head. He has done something unforgivable, while our beloved Lord was away. A terrible act of treason. Aurora also glanced at her husband for a moment with a stern face. I haven't heard the details, but whatever it was, I am sure we can work out some compensation. We have been loyal subjects of the Dark Lord for many years. Miss Bellatrix. Have you? Bella smiled. Why don't you rip away that dress and show us your dark mark then? I am afraid that I never received that honor, Aurora answered. No, you did not, Bella stated. Because you never were a true follower. Your husband was. She pointed at him, and for the past years he has stolen the identity of our Dark Lord and ruled over the outer circle followers. What? Lady Parkinson could not help but shout. You heard me. That disgrace of a man took advantage of the fact that only a few selected individuals had seen the face of our Lord and pretended to be him. That's how he became minister so easily. Now do you understand the severity of his betrayal, my dear Aura? She looked at her defeated husband again. How could you? This was far worse than what she had imagined. We are doomed, she realized now. There was no way to talk their way out of this. Miss Bellatrix, my daughter, at least, Crucia. Bellatrix had her wand pointed at Lady Parkinson before she even began to speak. The curse hit her chest, and she began to scream. She lost her grip on her wand, and it rolled beneath the table. Pansy had been standing right behind her mother and received a small dosage of the curse too, making her fall backward while screaming as well. Bellatrix released the curse. No, we can't make this so quick. Besides, I'm sure there is someone else who wants to say a few words. Bella turned around and glanced at the shorter person who had been standing behind Lady Zabini. Isn't that right, Draco? The short figure stepped forward while removing his hood. His face had not changed much since his disappearance the previous year, but his skin was much paler and his eyes were now completely yellow, just like Bellatrix's. Thank you, Aunt Bella, for giving me this chance. Draco turned towards the last hooded figure and gave a deep bow. And thank you too, my lord. The hooded individual raised his face slightly, but even so it was impossible to discern his features, as if an unnatural fog was preventing them from being seen. Have fun, young Draco, but don't delay much, the chilling voice said. Aurora managed to raise her head from the ground as she heard it. The Dark Lord. It had changed, but this was definitely the voice of Lord Voldemort. Despite having only met him once in person, it was not something she could ever forget. Pansy recovered from the pain she had suffered and stood up on shaky legs. She had no time to be terrified about being in the presence of the Dark Lord himself, because she was too surprised to see Draco again. Draco. The boy's gaze was also fixed on her. Hello, Pansy. It's been a while. Have you missed your fiancé? He said with a grin before he began to approach.
Wait!
My lord! Lord Parkinson finally reacted from his stupor as he saw this. My daughter, can you at least spare my Silencio, Bellatrix shouted. The spell she threw at Lord Parkinson not only silenced him, but also threw him across the hall. You won't speak again unless the Lord gives you permission, she added. Please? Aurora tried to stand up, but the effects of the Cruciatus curse were still lingering on her. With every movement she made, it felt like dozens of knives were being stabbed all over her body. Ah, she screamed, before collapsing back on the floor. Draco ignored the plight of Lady Parkinson, and continued to advance towards Pansy. Dear Draco, what do you think you are doing? Pansy took a step back. She could feel the danger very clearly. Those new eyes that Draco had now showed her nothing but cruelty and bloodlust. The blonde boy chuckled. He very much enjoyed her current expression of fear. I have been dreaming about this for a long time. I want to make you suffer, Pansy. I haven't done anything to you, she shouted while continuing to step away from him. Draco pulled a knife from his belt. The knife was only around 4 or 5 inches in length, but the moment it was out of its sheath, the blade began to emanate a baleful purple mist. It would not take a scholar to deduce that it was a cursed blade. Just a simple scratch could be a death sentence. You haven't done anything to me. You took everything from me. Draco screamed at Pansy. He was now very close to her, and she had nowhere else to run. Her back was pressing against a stone wall. I didn't. Shut up. I don't want to hear your excuses. I just want you to die. Draco raised the knife in the air. No. Pansy screamed and covered her face with her hands. Before Draco could finish his motion, he felt movement behind him. When he turned around, he saw the figure of Aurora Parkinson charging at him. Leave my daughter, she screamed. This might have worked against him in the past, but the current Draco was different. He twisted his body at an impossible angle and avoided the charge of Lady Parkinson. As she passed by him, he moved his right hand at lightning speed and plunged the blade of his knife into the woman's ribs. She yelped in pain for a second before he used his free hand to push her away. Her little remaining strength abandoned her, and she fell down right next to her daughter. As the curse began to take effect, her screams of pain became louder. Mum! Pansy panicked and took hold of her mother. Aurora clutched at her sides. The pain she was feeling now was comparable to the Cruciatus curse she suffered before. She could not speak or think. She could only scream.
What did you do to her?
Pansy exclaimed. Her eyes were filled with hatred as she watched Draco return a cruel smirk to her. The same things I'm going to do to you. Just moments later, the screams of Lady Parkinson stopped. It had taken less than a minute for the curse to end her life. Pansy cried while clutching her mother. No, please no. Draco glanced back at his lord. He knew he could not enjoy this for much longer, so he got to work. Let's end this. Just at that moment he noticed that Lord Parkinson was running at him. The man could not speak, but he had at least recovered from the blow inflicted by Bellatrix moments before. He had lost his wand too, but that didn't matter to him anymore. He just wanted to grab Draco and crush him with his own hands. Bellatrix huffed before disappearing from the spot where she had been standing. Like a gust of wind, she appeared between Draco and Lord Parkinson. Before the man could take even one more step, she extended her leg and gave the man a powerful kick on his chest. Once more, Lord Parkinson went flying through the air before he crashed against some bookshelves. Bellatrix turned to Draco with a stern expression. Stop playing, Draco. Our lord's patience is limited. Draco nodded. He knew how right she was. He had already seen what happens to those who anger the Dark Lord. Pansy glanced up at him, but she said nothing at first. She just stared at him with as much hatred as she could muster in one look. She had never hated someone so much before. She knew she was about to die but didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing her afraid anymore. Pansy closed her eyes while Draco lifted the blade over her. She didn't even listen to his last words. Her last thoughts were of a certain boy with green eyes and the regret she felt for never seeing him again. "No," Lord Parkinson yelled. "He broke my charm. Not bad." Bella looked more impressed than otherwise. Draco saw as Lord Parkinson began to run at him, but he only took a few steps before his body was lifted into the air. Enough. The tall figure wearing black robes finally stepped forward. "It is too early for you to throw away your life, Parkinson. I still have uses for you." "You?" Lord Parkinson glared at the threatening figure with eyes filled with rage. "You killed His levitating body began to twist in unnatural ways. The man let out a blood-curdling scream as his bones began to crack. From behind the dark hood, a pair of red eyes emerged into view. "A monster." Parkinson began to mutter words with difficulty. They will never follow a monster." The hooded figure extended his left hand from beneath the black robes. A hand made of pure white bones came into view and grasped Parkinson's face. "They will do what they are told." Three figures landed their brooms in a clearing near a small but cozy-looking wooden house surrounded by a forest on all sides. It was already getting late, but the full moon gave plenty of light. They left their brooms resting against a nearby tree and focused their attention on the house. "This is a waste of time," Alastor Moody grumbled. "I'm just glad we could leave the desk job for a while," John Dawlish said with a smile on his face. "I don't think this was a waste of time." James Potter had wasted no time performing an examination of the area surrounding the house. "I can't detect any protections, not even a simple alarm charm," he added. "That's suspicious," Moody said. "Oh look," Dawlish pointed at the house. "That window appears to have been broken." Moody grinned. His mood had obviously improved. "Maybe we can have some action after all." "One's ready." He started to move towards the house at a slow pace, while his magical eye constantly moved around, searching for threats. "Be very careful, this could be something much worse than a waste of our time," James said. He had not shared what Harry had told him about Voldemort's return, but he could not help but keep his words in mind. Moody turned around and gave James a knowing look. "I am always vigilant." As the three of them approached the house, the first thing that hit them was the smell. "Ugh, it smells disgusting in there," Dawlish said. Moody frowned. "It smells like death, and not a recent one," James added. It just took a light charm and a quick peek through the window hole to find the source of the stench. A rotting corpse with a missing arm lay on the wooden floor of the living room, surrounded by a stain of dried blood, as well as other bodily fluids. "Dawlish, stay outside and keep an eye out. Potter and I are going in." Moody started to give instructions. "This man seems to have been killed a while ago, but you can never be too careful." "Yes, sir," Dawlish nodded and went to work. James and Moody decided to access the house through the window hole. Part of the wall had also been broken, leaving an entrance large enough to enter comfortably. It was hard to tell if some trap had been set up at the front door. James used a spell to clean the air and make the room more bearable to be in. The state of the corpse was terrible, and his face was barely recognizable. This man looks familiar," Moody commented. James thought the same, but that was not saying much. The magical population of England was fairly small, and by working at the Ministry of Magic for a few years, you could end up meeting most of them. "It appears that he died of blood loss. Whatever got rid of his arm was not a cutting charm. That is hardly a clean cut. It's almost like it was ripped apart from its socket." "What a nasty curse," Moody said. While he examined the body, James went to look around the room, trying to see if he could find something that could identify the victim. And he soon found it. Displayed above the fireplace were many trophies and medals. "Those are dueling trophies. There are so many of them." James felt the need to make the comment. It was truly an impressive number of prizes. "A duelist, huh? That didn't seem to have done him any good," Moody said. "No, this can't be him." James stared in shock at the name on all the trophies. Potter? What did you find? Out with it. This is Anthony Dolohov. The moment he read the name, everything about this case changed for him. This was no longer a mystery murder. He knew exactly who had killed this man. He also knew the when and the why. Dolohov, of course, that is him. Now that he had a name he knew, Moody was able to recognize the familiar face despite its rotten state. This guy was quite the piece of work. I can't believe the bastard is dead. I kinda wish to shake hands with whoever managed to take him down. Moody smiled. Was he even reported missing? James was not in the mood to smile. Not that I know of, Moody answered after thinking about it. But then again, I doubt he had many friends. Not friends, but you would think that his fellow Death Eaters would want to know what happened when one of their own goes missing. James knew there was something off about this case they were given. You may be right, and our beloved minister never said a word about this either. Moody glanced at the corpse while his magical eye moved around, searching for something or someone. Who sent the report about this house? James asked. It was anonymous, and I was only told to come here to investigate this house. There was no mention of N corpse, Moody said. The three of us have been stuck in desk duty almost since Parkinson took his position as minister. They obviously didn't want us snooping around in their business. And now all of a sudden, Moody nodded, they sent us to investigate this house in the middle of nowhere with an anonymous report. It's like they had been waiting for the right moment to send us out, James noted. Moody gripped his wand. Be ready. This is Dolish's screams were heard from the outside. Dolish, James exclaimed. Moody was about to poke his head out of the window when, all of a sudden, their teammate jumped in. We are surrounded. This is an ambush. Dawlish screamed in a panicked voice. Surrounded? That's impossible, Moody said back. I have been constantly using my magical eye to scan the surroundings. If anyone had gotten close to the house I would know it, he said with absolute confidence.
You can go check yourselves.
There are dozens of figures lurking among the trees. Dawlish was extremely shaken up. Did you see what they looked like? Were they wearing white masks? James asked. You think they are Death Eaters? Moody asked. Dawlish shook his head. It's too dark in the forest. I couldn't glimpse any details. Fine, I'll go out there and take a look. You two stay here and take cover, then we can Moody, James exclaimed in alarm. The veteran Aura felt a tug on his leg and looked down. They had all been too distracted by what was happening on the outside to notice that the rotten corpse had been moving across the floor with its one remaining arm, and was now clutching at Moody's leg, getting ready to take a good bite out of it. Depulso James was the fastest one to react and take action. Dolohov's corpse was sent flying until it crashed against the fireplace, making a series of very unpleasant noises as its already decomposed body continued to break apart. Unfortunately, he did not act fast enough to prevent Moody from suffering a quick bite. Is that a zombie? Dawlish exclaimed in horror, as he stared at the still-moving corpse. Its remaining arm had been destroyed, so it couldn't do much more than twitch and look at them with its white, dead eyes. Oh, this is bad. Zombies have a cursed bite. James glanced at his mentor with worry, but then he realized something. The zombie had chosen the worst target. Moody huffed. Aye, they do, but this one, he tapped on his artificial leg, missed the mark. James sighed with relief, but they soon started to hear noises coming from outside. They were far from safe yet. Our brooms are outside, there is no way we can get them back now, Dawlish pointed out. We can still apparate, but, James didn't finish his sentence. If whoever set us up has at least half a functioning brain, they have put up some anti-apparition charms, Moody said. Bloody damn it, Dawlish had just tried to apparate away but was unable to do so. What about our emergency port keys? They can get through some wards, but I haven't gotten mine back since they took it. Dawlish glanced at James, who shook his head. Me neither. I should have been more paranoid about this, Moody lamented. We don't even know what is outside. If they are just a few zombies, we may be able to blast our way through them and escape by just running until we are out of the wards, James suggested. They then realized something and shared a look with each other. The noises outside have stopped, Dawlish pointed out. The three of them approached with care to the window hole to take a peek outside. They could see them clearly now that they were in the open under the moonlight. They were humanoid-shaped, but there was hardly anything human left in them. They were little more than skeletons with a thin layer of grey skin left over them, and a pair of creepy red eyes. There were not dozens but hundreds of them, and although they could not be completely certain, it was likely they were completely surrounding the house. "Those are not zombies," James said. "Inferi, bloody hell, no wonder I could not detect them. My eye doesn't work on dead things." Moody huffed. "This is much worse than zombies, and there are so many of them, we have no way to run past them." Dawlish added, "Like zombies, Inferi were reanimated corpses, but there were some key differences among them that made them much harder to deal with. The zombie is simply reanimated by placing a curse on a corpse. The curse will take control of whatever remains of the body, and only move if a living being gets too close to it. Getting bitten by a zombie has the risk of having the curse spread through the bite. If not removed in time, the curse will kill its victim and reanimate them as new zombies. Inferi were made with a purpose in mind. They were constructed using corpses as materials. In reality, they were closer to golems than other undead creatures. Compared to normal golems, the Inferi were completely autonomous, but they always followed their creator's wishes. Their bodies had also been restored to achieve perfect mobility, despite their gruesome skeletal appearance. To sum it up, Inferi was smarter and much faster than zombies.
They are moving.
Dawlish yelled as he saw the first row of Inferi take off running at them. "Use fire," Moody commanded. He was right, James muttered while staring at the undead army. He knew there was only one individual capable of having something like this. Voldemort is back. Harry was right. If he had any doubts before, they were now gone. Incendio. Inflammare. Several Inferi were hit by the flames and would quickly be consumed by them. But while a small number of them were taken care of, the rest continued to advance. They could hear countless noises of the house being torn apart on the other side while they barely held the front. Moody turned around and found James patting his robes, as if he was looking for something. "Potter, we need your help here. Start firing spells at something for fuck's sake." "Hold on, I think I found it. My son gave me something." "Incendio, incendio." Dawlish was desperately throwing fire at the creatures. "I can't hold them." One of them managed to squeeze inside. Moody hurried and used a powerful wind spell to push it outside while fanning the flames still burning on the exterior. This gave them a small breathing window in the front, but the Inferi behind them were already inside the house. "What now? We can't use fire inside here. We will die too," Dawlish said. "Leave it to me." James tapped the wooden floor with his wand and created a robust wall in front of the door leading to the living room where they were as the creatures were trying to enter. This blocked the only other entrance, but it also meant that they now had only one way to escape the house. "Good one, James," Dawlish exclaimed. "Yes, but those guys are not that stupid. They will soon come this way," Moody said. "I found it." James pulled a small box from his robes. "Is that a port key?" Dawlish said with a glimmer of hope. "No, this is an explosive artifact." James opened the box and took the item inside in his hands. It was a blue-tinted crystal covered in runes and encased in a metallic thin frame. "You said your son gave you that?" Even for Moody, this was a strange gift to give your father. "Cover me while I throw it. This should kill enough Inferi for us to escape," James suggested. "I'm up for anything that can get us out of here," Dawlish said. Moody pointed his wand at the opening. A large number of Inferi were charging at them once the flames went down a bit. "Flamme!" A wave of flames manifested in front of Moody and made its way towards the undead creatures. "Come on, Potter." James nodded. As per Harry's instructions, he carefully moved the tip of his wand in between the metallic frame until it made direct contact with the surface of the crystal. He then injected a large amount of his magic to activate it. The crystal began to shine with an eerie blue light and something that looked like a tiny flame appeared inside the crystal. "I think it's ready," James said. "You think? Have you never used one of those, whatever that thing is?" Dawlish asked. "I was told to activate it, throw it as far as I could and to cover my eyes," James said. The flame inside the crystal appeared to be growing in size and becoming more wild. It had also begun to change color towards yellow. Moody noticed this immediately. Throw that outside now. Both he and Dawlish used some fire magic to prevent the Inferi from getting close while James approached the opening and launched the artifact with all his strength. James placed a shield in front of him and the other two auras, after they all took a few steps back. He used one of the rings that Harry made to create it and powered it with as much magic as he could spare, and hoped that would be enough. Dozens of Inferi were scrambling and pushing against each other to enter through the window hole. In the distance a flash of light could be seen. A second later they were hit by an extremely bright wave of golden flames that consumed everything in sight. No, Dawlish began to feel the heat of the fire and screamed. The flames went through their shields like they were not even there. The light was so intense that even after closing their eyes and placing their hands on top, they could still see the golden light. For a moment they thought they were all going to die for sure, under the massive assault of the powerful flames. But the heat from this golden fire never went above a comfortable warmth. It was actually a very cozy and calming sensation, being enveloped in this strange fire. The event only lasted for 10 seconds, but to them it felt like hours had passed. When they felt the light recede, they opened their eyes with caution and looked around. It took a bit for their eyes to adjust to the darkness of the night, but when they did, they all were able to confirm that nothing was burned by the flames. The small wooden house was still standing, the same as before, and they were also completely fine, not even a small singe on their clothes.
What was that?
Moody was the first one to speak. I was sure those flames hit me. Why aren't we burned? Not even a bit. Dawlish asked. I don't understand it either. The fire did nothing. James was extremely confused at the moment. The event had been so strange that for a moment he even forgot about the most important thing. I wouldn't say that it did nothing. Moody stood up from the floor. Can you not hear it? Silence. James finally realized. Where did the Inferi go? Dawlish asked. Moody looked outside. The clearing was completely empty. Potter, what in Merlin's balls was that thing? The anti-apparition charms are gone now, James noted. Then let's leave this cursed place, Dawlish said. Hold on, something has just occurred to me. Moody appeared to be contemplating something. What is it? Dawlish is not wrong. We should not linger here longer than necessary. We don't know if there are more enemies around, said James. If this was an attempt by that blasted minister to take out his opposition, it is very likely we are not the only ones being targeted tonight, Moody concluded. Madam Bones, Dawlish exclaimed. She left work early today. She should be alone in her manor. If that is the case, she is a much more important target than us. James was very concerned. If they already sent an army of Inferi to kill them, what did they send to kill the most influential person in the entire department? But there are only a few people who know about the location of T. I'll take you there, Moody interrupted Dawlish. Hold on to my tunic, we have no time to waste. The two Aurors did as told, and in the next instant they disappeared from Dolahov's house. They reappeared in a different grassy clearing. The biggest difference was that instead of being surrounded by a thick forest, there were massive rocky walls all around them, like they were at the bottom of a cliff. The first thing they noted was the lake a short distance to their right, but after giving the area a passing glance, they all realized that something important was missing from here. Where is the house? Dawlish asked, what they all had been wondering. They had never seen the Bones Manor in person before, but as all ancient wizard dwellings, they were expecting a castle or some massive mansion at least. It is supposed to be. Moody pointed towards the darkest part of the clearing. Wait, there is something there. His magical eye began to emit mechanical noises as it moved. Dawlish squinted his eyes and began to approach. You are right, there is something there. It almost looks like, instead of the expected large mansion, there seemed to be a mountain of something. It was too dark near the walls of the cliff, as the light from the moon became completely obfuscated. That's a mountain of rubble. James hurried to send a luminous charm in that direction. The area became bright for a few seconds, allowing the men to get a better look and to confirm James's suspicions. Madam Bones, her manor, there is nothing left. Dawlish could not believe what he was seeing. The Bones' ancestral home had been completely demolished, leaving nothing but an enormous pile of wood and stone. I can see someone, Moody exclaimed. The light from James's spell had begun to dissipate. but he was sure to have spotted a human figure standing there. "I saw someone standing near the rubble," Moody said. "Could it have been Madam Bones?" asked Dawlish. "She also has a niece, right? Susan, I believe. We must find her too," James said. Moody stopped the two men before they rushed forward. "Hold on. My eye can't detect any living things in the vicinity other than us," he said with a tone of warning. "Wait, are you saying that?" Dawlish's face became a shade paler. They had just gone through this. The dark figure ahead moved from its spot and walked towards a more illuminated area, so they could now see it more clearly. "Another Inferius?" Dawlish clutched his wand with force. James and Moody thought the same, just for an instant at least. Because then the dark figure spoke to them. "It looks like we have some pests left." The words were spoken in a low tone, but despite that, the group could hear everything perfectly, as if it was being whispered directly into their ears. "Wands ready, full alert," Moody exclaimed. They did not need to be told that twice. That creepy voice had completely startled them. They then began to hear some strange noises. It was loud enough to get their attention away from the mysterious figure. It was a terrifying and unnatural screeching sound. They all thought the same at the time. No living creature should make a sound like that. And what made it worse was that the sound was getting louder and louder by the second. It was getting closer and fast. James soon pointed at the dark skies where he saw something pale and gigantic descending upon them. Before he could even utter a word of warning, that something had already landed. The creature was massive, beyond anything they had seen before. Perhaps it was around half the size of the former Bones Manor. It was easy to make that comparison because the creature had landed on top of the rubble, and it also solved the mystery of how the manor was destroyed. Its body reminded them of the Inferi they had seen before. The shape of its bones was visible, and barely covered by a thin membrane of pale flesh. Its eyes were bright blood red, even more so than the previous undead they had encountered. However, this creature did not have a humanoid shape. This was a completely different type of being, one they were all very familiar with. Despite its current putrid state, it was easy to say what this thing had been in life. "A dragon?" Dawlish stared in horror at the undead beast. "An Inferi dragon? How?" Moody was at a loss for words. "We need to leave now," James shouted. As terrifying as this massive beast was, James's eyes were locked on the dark-robed individual. "Master," Dobby appeared inside his room with a loud pop. Harry put down his quill and turned around to look at the house elf. Dobby knew better than to disturb him while he was working, and especially this late at night. "What happened?" he asked with a hint of concern. His father was supposed to return hours ago, and he was afraid Dobby's interruption was related to that. "Big Master is back," Dobby exclaimed. "So he is back?" He felt somewhat relieved. "Wait, is he injured?" This did not explain why Dobby was so nervous. The elf began to stammer his words while trying to explain, but all Harry could understand was that he did not come back alone. "Never mind. I'll go check. Where is he?" "Main hall, Sir Harry." When Harry entered the room, he immediately noticed the tense atmosphere. He found his father sitting at the table with a pale face and a cup of tea in front of him. On the other side was his mother, with an expression of concern. Next to him were two auras he was very familiar with. "Harry," James glanced at his son. Harry saw something in his father's eyes, something he had never seen there before, an extreme amount of fear. He had seen those eyes many times before, but never on James Potter. Dawlish was in even worse shape. The teacup in his hands was constantly making clanking noises as he trembled. Moody appeared to be fine on the outside, but anyone who knew the man well enough could tell otherwise. "What happened to the three of you to end up like this?" Harry asked. Those were all veteran auras, who had seen plenty of action in their careers. "Harry, did you call your son here?" Dawlish glanced at Lily. He didn't think this was a conversation appropriate for someone of his age, no matter how brilliant he was. "We saw him," James spoke in a somber tone. Harry didn't need to ask his father about who this was. What did he look like? James gave him a detailed retelling of what they went through that night, and their encounter with the Dark Lord himself. "But we can't be sure it was him. It has been more than 10 years since he disappeared. Why would you know who? Why would he return now?" Think what you want." Dawlish, But I have no doubt that the bastard we saw, that was the old Dark Lord, all right, Moody said. Harry was not listening to them. He was instead thinking about his father's words. A skeletal dragon, zombies, an army of inferi, red eyes. It seems like he had delved deep into necromancy territory. While in search of his answers, Harry thought, this was not a very surprising result. Necromancy was a popular area of study for those who wished to fight against death itself, and Voldemort had already been studying it before even the First War began. Reanimating a dragon could not be an easy feat. What else has he done? He wondered. He was also worried about what kind of method to preserve his life he was using now. Necromancy had several of them, but he was no expert in that practice. I'll have to do some research. Despite the grim nature of the news he had just received, Harry felt a lot more at ease than before. At least now he had a much better idea of what he was dealing with and could prepare accordingly. What about Madam Bones and Susan? Did you not see them at all? Lily asked. James shook his head. Everything was destroyed by that thing. The Bones Manor, there was nothing left. Had they been still alive, my eye would not have missed them. Moody answered her. And if we didn't leave as soon as we did, we would all have died there. Dawlish added. Lily nodded solemnly. She knew her husband would not have run away if there was someone he could save. Moody turned both eyes towards Harry. Tell me, boy, what the hell was that explosive you gave your father? Oh, that fire scared me silly. I really thought I was about to die, Dawlish exclaimed. Did you make that? Yes, that golden fire was very strange. It burned down every inferius in sight until there was nothing left of them. But it didn't burn us or the house at all, Moody observed Harry while he spoke. It actually felt very comfortable, Dawlish felt the need to add. James remained silent. He wasn't sure if his son had some good answers prepared for this. Although Harry never specifically told him, James had assumed this was something he had learned during his previous life. If he hadn't been in such a dire situation, he would have preferred not to use it at all, and instead protect his son's secrets. Ah, that thing, Harry made an innocent face. I'm afraid that's family magic. Family magic? Dawlish asked. That is correct. The information about the artifact my father used, as well as its nature and the method of creating it, I found it all written in the Potter Grimoire, so I cannot talk about it, Harry told them. Well, at least it will be written when I have time for that part. So it's not completely a lie, Harry thought. It was the next day. Moody and Dawlish went away to a secure location, given by Dumbledore, since it would not be safe for them to return home. This left the Potter family alone once more. They were all currently in the kitchen, having a late breakfast. You are not planning on going back to the ministry, right? Lily gave her husband a piercing glare. Of course not. I mean, not for the moment at least, James answered. The minister had finally gained the courage to go after his opposition, so going back in there would be like walking into the lion's den. James was sure that this change in tactics was due to Voldemort's return. Otherwise, Parkinson would not have been so brazen about his approach. Did you get fired? Lyra asked, without holding back. Lyra, have some tact, Lily scolded her. Well, kind of. I suppose I did, James answered. After all, having your boss trying to kill you must count as getting fired. Daddy got fried, Holly exclaimed in horror. No, not fried, Holly. I got fired, James said, but seeing his daughter's face of confusion, he tried again. It means that I lost my job. Like Ginny's dad, Lyra added. Did you lose it? Holly seemed to be thinking about something. You should ask Mipsy. I lose things all the time and she always helps me find them. Thanks. I will ask her. James smiled at her. In any case, I will be spending more time at home. Will you be here for my birthday? Holly asked. Of course, James answered. All day, yes. Yeah. Holly celebrated. I'm glad Daddy got fried, she decided. He got fired, not fried, Lyra huffed. Anyways, James turned to look at his son, who seemed to have just finished his breakfast. Say, Harry? About that family magic artifact you made. Can you make more? James asked in a low voice. Family magic? You mean the grimoire? Lyra asked. How do you know about that? James moved his eyes between his daughter and son.
What's a grimoire? Gray, what was it?
Holly looked at her mother for help. Why don't we go to the library for a bit? Lily stood up from her chair and went to her youngest daughter. She had the feeling that her husband wanted to speak alone with Harry. Okay, Holly was always happy to lie down and read something after breakfast. Wanna come too, Lyra? Lily asked. No, I want to stay and listen to this. Lyra didn't like being left out of the loop. Now that she had learned the truth from Harry, she wanted to be more involved. It's fine, let her stay. She was going to hear about it sooner or later, Harry told his parents. James waited until Lily and Holly left to continue. Why did you tell her about that? I made a promise to her, Harry said. And how much did... I know everything. Lyra gave her father a smug smile. I know where Harry came from, and about his previous life. He even showed me some memories. Harry, you could have consulted us about this. I don't want her involved in these things. She is still a child. I'm 13 already, Lyra exclaimed. Exactly, James spoke back. She was plenty involved already, and she doesn't know that Voldemort is back. Harry shrugged. What? Harry, what did I just say? James frowned. It's best if she learns about it. That way maybe she can avoid getting into trouble, Harry said. Or at least, I can hope so. It only happened twice, Lyra defended. In 2 years. Wait, twice? James didn't know about the basilisk attack in her first year of school. So he is really back. Lyra glanced at her brother. Is he as bad as... Voldemort is Voldemort. He is always going to be dangerous, Harry told her. Is there anything I can do to help? Lyra asked. She was well aware that she could not do much to help when it came to fights. But there had to be something. When the time comes I will let you know. He wanted her as far away as possible, but she had Potter blood in her veins. Lyra was never going to just stand aside and do nothing, so if he just told her no, she was bound to do something dumb. Harry turned his attention back to his father. As for your request, those explosives are very difficult to make. I may be able to produce one more before the summer ends, if I have enough materials left. What explosive? Lyra became curious. Just one. James had been hoping to get many more than that. That's a shame, if we had more than Voldemort. You are really underestimating him. That artifact won't do much against anyone powerful enough, Harry said. Seriously, but it felt so strong. That's because you used it against some inferi. The effect is just a bit more potent than a Patronus, and they take a lot of time to make. That's why I only made one. I see. James looked disappointed. He thought they had some incredible weapons at their disposal. Don't get me wrong, they would come in handy if he tries to make use of a large army of inferi, zombies or any other type of undead. It would also chase away dementors, but don't expect it to kill them. Inferi, zombies, dementors. Lyra became paler. I'll finish writing the grimoire in a month or so. Make sure to give it a read. But be very careful with what you share, Harry warned. That book is going to be the Potter legacy. Take care of it. James raised an eyebrow. Why are you sounding like my grandfather now? Because he is super old, Lyra exclaimed. Do I need to jinx you? Harry stood up from his chair. But wait, Lyra stood back. I know one that makes your hair change color every 5 minutes, or that one that makes you vomit slugs. Or maybe... No, Lyra took off running. I'm sorry. There were 12 rock golems in front of him. They were 10 feet tall, 3 meters, and wielded rudimentary stone swords. The blades weren't very sharp, but considering the weight of the weapon, plus the strength of the rock giants, it would be very easy for them to separate a limb with one good hit. All the golems had received the same command, to kill Harry Potter. They all began running at him, but instead of charging together with a frontal assault, they decided to make use of their numerical advantage. While some continued with a direct attack, others moved to his sides and back to overwhelm him with strikes from all directions. Fascinating. They are thinking on their own. I had only given them the objective but didn't specify the how, so they are making decisions now. This had started as a simple training exercise, but now it was also a magical construct experiment. He had already been able to imprint some of his skills onto his creations, but these new golems appeared to have improved even further. Could it be another side effect of my fusion with the Deathly Hallows? Most of his magical abilities had become enhanced. He just didn't have time to test this one before. Whoa! A stone blade had just passed very close to his face. They are faster too. Fortunately for him, his physical abilities had also improved greatly. Thanks to this, he had little trouble avoiding the first barrage of attacks. He also had plenty of room to move since he decided to perform this exercise in the backyard after taking proper precautions to avoid his sisters from coming here and getting hurt by accident. The golem directly behind him just sent a powerful stab, aimed at where his heart would be. Harry jumped over it, landing on the blade of the massive stone sword, and then used it as a platform to jump once more. This time he propelled himself above the golems around him and escaped from the circle of death they had created. I guess I better start fighting back before they try that again. His wand was already aimed at the first golem. Reducto. Half the body of the golem was reduced to dust before it collapsed. These golems had some auto-repair properties for as long as they had some magic left, but there was no chance of repairing the damage Harry had caused to it. Let's see, what else? They began the encirclement once more. At first Harry thought they were just repeating the same tactic as before, but then he noticed that out of the 11 golems, only 5 were circling close to him, while the remaining 6 had created an outer circle to catch him if he tried to jump away. They are learning. He had not been expecting this. A gigantic stone blade came flying his way. His creations were not going to give him much time to be impressed. Gladius. His wand transformed into a two-sided sword and he used it to parry aside some of the attacks while avoiding the others. Devulsa. A baleful purple aura surrounded his blade. Harry made a horizontal slash across the chest of a nearby golem. The curse began to eat away at the stone surface, but he could not stop there, and continued to run his sword on the golems around him, until he was able to create a gap in the encirclement and escape. 3 golems were currently being consumed by the curse, while a 4th one had lost its weapon, but then the constructs on the outer circle went on the offensive. Harry's wand returned to its original shape. Torquio. A powerful current of wind manifested in the area, with Harry as its epicenter. Despite their massive weight, the golems were pushed away by the wind. Some of them were sent away from him while others ended up colliding with their brothers and being destroyed in the process. By the end of it, only 5 golems remained in a functional state. Bombarda, the first construct to stand up, was blown to pieces. The remaining 4 then began a last-ditch effort to reach Harry. At Tor, he pulled one of the golems towards him, and once it got close enough he aimed it at another one. Depulso. The golem was sent flying like a projectile, and when it collided with the other one, the 2 golems were reduced to small chunks of debris. The last 2 were mere feet away already. After using an explosive charm on one, Harry stored his wand and moved closer to the last one. The golem made a downward slash aimed at Harry's head. Instead of avoiding it, he took a step forward and stopped the attack with pure physical strength, something that should not be possible, considering that each golem weighed several tons. Damn. Harry knew he was pushing his body to its limits right now, but he needed to learn how much he could do in a controlled environment like this instead of a battlefield. With him and the golem at an apparent standstill, Harry was considering what to do next. But then he felt a presence nearby. A moment later the golem's upper body was reduced to dust. It looked like you were having trouble with the last one. Harry moved away from the crumbling golem and glanced at the new arrival. I had everything under control, Daphne. The blonde girl was wearing an elegant blue dress and a large witch hat. My apologies then, she said with a soft grin. How was your summer with that woman? Harry asked. Miss Yaffle is a wonderful teacher. I have learned so much from her. There was more emotion than usual in her tone. That went to show how excited she was. Wanna show me? Harry made a gesture with his wand. I appreciate the offer, but I don't want to get my new dress dirty. Perhaps another day, she answered politely. By the way, that was a very impressive display of magic. Harry raised an eyebrow. Were you watching the whole time? She pointed at one of the windows overseeing the garden. I have been meaning to ask you, those golems, they look very similar to the ones at Hogwarts. Of course, I used them as reference, but my constructs are nowhere near the same level as them. A dozen white marble golems would have given me some serious trouble. So it wasn't you who made them. Daphne had wanted to ask him about it for some time, but the proper opportunity hadn't presented itself. Harry shook his head. Those were created a very long time ago, even before the castle was built. You mean even before Hogwarts existed? So they weren't even made by the four founders? Daphne was becoming more interested the more she heard. Who made them then? Harry gave her a mischievous grin. Perhaps another day I will tell you. Daphne knew he had just given her back her previous words. You can be very childish sometimes. How did you even make it here? I left clear instructions to not let anyone in the garden while I was training. Harry decided to change the topic. After speaking with her for a while, your mother let me come here to watch. She did, huh? He didn't really mind it. He had only asked her that to prevent Holly from getting hurt by accident. She appeared to be very busy, reading some ancient tomes. Harry nodded. He was well aware of what she was talking about. Lily had brought the majority of the tomes hidden back at the family vault in order to study them further. Her idea was to analyze all the spells and determine if any of them were worth adding to the new family grimoire, after Harry had finished with his part. This time James had no complaints about his wife reading books with illegal magic in them, since he was more aware of the dangerous situation they were all in. In fact, his father had been reading them too and learning from them. I saw one about rituals. Daphne had a tone of concern in her voice. I'm not planning on doing more of those, Harry assured her. Especially not after what I know now. His body had been modified by the magic of the Deathly Hallows. The result of mixing the magic of any ritual with that one would have unpredictable results, making it impossible for him to delve into that particular branch of magic for the time being. Still, it wasn't like he needed it. Becoming the Master of Death had given him more benefits than what he would have gotten from the rituals he had planned on performing. The only concern he had now was the fact that he still didn't know what the downside was going to be. Although I must say there was a very interesting ritual at the end of that book, Daphne muttered in a somewhat low tone. For reference, you can check chapter 78, The Downsides of Rituals. What was that about? He didn't recall anything interesting in those books. Well, it was about... Never mind. Daphne hid her rosy cheeks beneath her large hat. There was something else I wanted to speak with you about. Sure, but why don't we take a seat in the shade? It's getting too warm out here. Harry pointed at his favorite spot in the garden, the stone bench beneath the apple tree. The two of them sat down and Harry noticed the expression of concern on Daphne's face. Did something happen? It's about Pansy. I haven't been able to contact her all summer, and she hasn't sent a single letter to me. I'm afraid something has happened to her. Harry frowned. The Parkinsons disappearing after Voldemort's return. That could only mean two things. They either ran away and are currently hiding in some small corner of the world. My father said that the minister is acting very strange. As of lately, he has also approached him several times to ask about the whereabouts of his daughter, but has gotten no satisfactory answer. Wait, so Lord Parkinson is still at the ministry, only Pansy is missing? Harry found this very strange. Did Voldemort forgive him? No chance. Did he perhaps take his daughter as a hostage to ensure his loyalty? Who said anything about missing? I just said that Harry, is there something you are not telling me? Do you know something? I just have some ideas, but... He knew he had to tell her before it was too late. Her father was too involved with the Ministry of Magic and would become a target sooner or later. There is something you should know. I'm not sure if you are going to believe me, but... At that moment, Dobby appeared before them. Master,